Okay, so this is my 1989 Honda CRX Si. Getting a replacement engine put in. This is the original A6 block, 1.6 liter. It is a giant piece of crap. It's got over 300,000 kilometers on it, and from the looks of it, when I'm driving, it's got worn out valve seals and piston rings, so I thought about rebuilding it, but for the same cost, actually less, I bought D16Y7 out of a 98 Honda Civic, and this has about 150,000 kilometers on it, and it was in good running condition. So I'm just going to do a couple things to it before I put it in. I've got a new timing belt and water pump, and then I've got a valve cover gasket underneath there. So I will be changing that out on here. I managed to get the crank bolt off. I had to use the blowtorch there, which I will then be using on the axle nut a little later on because it is not moving. And I've just got a basic electric impact wrench here. Not as good as air, but it was like 50 bucks, so I can't complain. So the old timing belt has been removed. What you got to do is just use a little bit of whiteout to mark approximately. Well, I shouldn't say approximately. The new belt has to go on exactly the way the old one was. If you're one tooth off, it'll mess up your timing, and well, I don't want to deal with any of that crap. So, next up is doing the water pump, and then just getting some of this excess gunk on the bottom cleaned off. That's why I put the bit of cardboard underneath there. I'm not too sure how much coolant is going to come flying out of there as soon as I unbolt that thing. So for putting the D16Y7 into an 89 CRX, you gotta change the motor mount. The one that I've got attached to it right here is from the 89 CRX, and you can see it is different from this one, which was what came on the engine. And the CRX mount actually sits pretty close to the timing belt there. I don't really like it that close, but I guess it's the way it's supposed to be. So the next step that I'm on now is removing the axles, and pretty much after that, just a couple extra hoses until I can remove the engine. So what I've done here, first thing I undid the part that holds in the brake line there, so it's not fighting, I don't have to fight it. Then the critical thing is the lower ball joint, which is right there. Now this, it's a pain in the ass, but it wasn't too bad using ball joint remover, which you put in right kind of in here underneath where the this rubber thing full of grease is, and then take a rubber mallet and hammer the shit out of it, and eventually it just pops out. And then to get the axle out of the engine, probably just a thin screwdriver or something like that just to pop it out. And then I just gotta do the other side after this. So we fast forward a bit. I have the old A6 engine pretty much pulled out of the CRX. The way I did it is I left the shift linkage connected, and way down there, eventually came through. It's a bit of a pain in the ass doing this on a lowered vehicle. You really have to kind of play around with the linkage, and I took the other piece off to try and allow the actual shifter itself to move a bit. And the other piece is somewhere down there now, because right underneath this boot is the piece that holds this on, and it's called the bitch pin because it is a royal bitch to take it off. requires, I think, an 8mm punch, and you gotta hammer away at it. And if you're trying to do that underneath the car, it really is a pain in the ass. So I decided to just leave the linkage on and pull it out that way. So, yeah, it's a really dirty, old, tired, fucking piece of shit engine. And then the Y6 is over there waiting to get all the accessories hooked up to it. So another problem that I ran into here is this piece that comes off the intake manifold usually would go around here on the A6 block, but on the Y7 it has to go over here, and obviously it doesn't reach. So I'm just putting a small coupler on here and taking some spare hose from another intake manifold, and I'm just going to run it in behind here and then connect up right in there. So removing the transmission turned out to be fairly easy. Just basically remove the starter and all of the bolts along the bell housing there. And then there's this little bracket thing underneath here as well. Remove that. And as soon as I removed all the bolts, I could already see the gap between the block and the transmission. So I just used a flathead screwdriver, pried it kind of evenly around the side, and then just popped right off. So for reinstallation, I think what I'm going to do is keep the shifter, the main shifter pole attached, because I don't want to deal with the bitch pin on there. But I removed the actual shifter from this, so it's not scraping or anything as I try to wedge it back underneath my car because it's lowered. And then I will just reattach this into here after the whole engine is back in. I think it'll be easier than if I try to drag the whole assembly under there. So it turns out the flywheel from the Y7 is different from the A6. So the pressure plate from the A6 does not fit properly. The bolts are further apart on the Y7. So looks like I'm going to have to take off the flywheel from the A6 and use that. So I've got the SI transmission off my A6 attached to the new engine. It was a bit of a pain in the ass. Essentially what I did is I just used cinder blocks to kind of line up the engine and transmission, and just kind of wedged it back and forth until it finally snapped into place. And hooking up all the wiring, one thing that you have to do is the temperature sensors in different locations, so you have to make an extension to plug into the new location for the sensor. This length is probably overkill, but I didn't want to have to do this twice, so there it is. Okay, so I got the motor in fairly easily. Most of everything is hooked up right now. One problem I've encountered is this is the thermostat housing. On the Y7, it is angled a bit upward here, whereas on the A6 block it just comes out straight. And I was thinking about taking off the one from the A6 block, but of course it does not have the temperature sensor on here, because on the A6 it's located on the back of the block. So, and the problem as well is because when I have the hose, it does not actually fit over this with the angle. The hose is not long enough, and I've got lots of this size hose, but not one that actually completes it all the way. So I'm going to redneck repair this. I'm going to hack off this part here from the A6 and use it as a coupler, and just get a small bend of hose and complete that. I want to get this running, and it's like 10 o'clock, all the stores are closed. This is my only option.